Now, as you might have noticed, Destiny 2 has been down pretty much all afternoon. And to get you up to speed, Bungie pushed down a mid-season patch today, and as per usual, the game went down for maintenance for about half an hour. Then we all logged back in and started testing AE changes, DMT nerf, playing Grandmaster Nightfalls. Everything was pretty good, but we noticed that there were some issues. Most notably, many players came by the stream stating that they were missing triumphs, as well as gilded seals, catalysts. Essentially, the game started to break even more. One of the hotfix changes actually listed the reinstatement of the Rumble playlist as a permanent PvP playlist. But upon checking the Crucible note in the director, no Rumble playlist was present. On top of that, the game started to lag like really bad. We were running Grandmaster Nightfalls and ads were all over the place. Health bars were going down and then back up again. Bosses were literally skipping immunity phases. It was very obvious today, guys, that the game was literally breaking. And a few moments after we finished that Grandmaster Nightfall, Bungie Help actually tweeted out that the game was being brought offline to address the many issues that all of us were experiencing. And that brings us to the reason of today's video. Now look, I'm not trying to kick Bungie while they're down. I can only imagine the guy that's working on all the tech issues at Bungie right now is feeling some kind of way. But this is not an isolated incident. Granted, if this was just a one-day bug, we really wouldn't even be talking about this. But this is the most recent example of systematic issues that we've really been brushing off since Witch Queen. And it's high time that we've addressed it. There has been a substantial increase in the amount of server issues we've experienced over the past year. To clarify, we're not talking about bugs. Having to disable activities and exotics is a completely different topic. We're talking about the backbone of the game. There have been so many issues with the core infrastructure of the game that we're just going to list off some of the most notable issues that took place over the past year. We have Valve the Disciple day one networking issues. We had delayed loot rewards, no loot rewards, tower load times, which Bungie has attempted to fix multiple times, consistent error codes, which has been in every season, XP lag. If you take activities like Wellspring, you can't even rally the flag until all the XP has been accumulated, leaving us just sitting there waiting for the XP to finish popping up on the screen before we can actually rally the flag. Disabled matchmaking, Spire the Watcher launch day downtime, disabled API, which has been happening a ton, and then overall PvP connections have just been terrible. And we blame skill-based matchmaking, but what if it's actually something at Bungie's core that's going wrong? Now again, this is just server issues. We're not even going to bring up the laundry list of bugs that seems to increase every single season. I'm not trying to kick Bungie while they're down. The point is though, this problem is escalating and it's only been getting worse as time goes on. The hotfix debacle is going to require player data rollbacks to the morning before the hotfix actually went live. Now this is actually very rare, and in most games it's the last thing developers want to do. We actually had a player data rollback back in January of 2020 after in-game materials disappeared from player accounts. But it's been a long time since then, 3 years. And even before that, I can't even remember off the top of my head when we actually had a player data rollback. Now why are we talking about this? For those of you that don't know, the Tiger engine Bungie currently runs Destiny 2 on is very, very old. Originally, it was the Blam engine, which powered Halo. When Bungie actually split off from Microsoft, they modified their previous engine to what we know today as the Tiger engine. Now, this is the core structure that has powered both Destiny 1 and Destiny 2 for the past 9 years. Granted, it's seen some major upgrades as well as overhauls since its creation, but even so, in a lot of ways, it's still very restrictive on the growth of Destiny 2. You ever wonder why sunsetting even existed in the first place? It wasn't just to rework old maps and refresh destinations for engine upgrades. It still exists today because the game cannot handle that much data at once. It's the same reason Orbs of Light generation was removed from weapons in Witch Queen, and the same reason we currently only have one perk per tree on our crafted weapons. Granted, I know we have other weapons like core playlist weapons that have multiple perks, but something about the crafted roles and enhanced perks, we can only get one in each column. And this is also the same reason why seasonal content still is removed from the game every single year. Now, we were actually going to save this for our Lightfall breakdown, but we might as well talk about it here. Bungie has already admitted that the data limits on their servers is an obstacle they still need to overcome for future releases. This was actually in an interview with Joe Blackburn and Dan McAuliffe via Games Radar. Quote, "We've been working behind the scenes to try and prepare a game that was not designed for this. I don't know that any game was designed for the content volume that Destiny produces, and we're still working on it. We believe that we have a good path to keep these things going, but the work is never done. We're always going to be weighing that awesome content that we want to put in the game against interoperable systems and giant binary sizes." Now, the way that we're getting this is through a lot of very painful choices that we make every single month with a lot of people working on it. We're still exploring. We're trying to make improvements to make that easier. We're really happy with working to stop sunsetting content, but we have not doubled that effort to figure out how to make it all work. We haven't solved the problem, and I don't think it's a singular problem, McAuliffe says, but we're committed to solving it, both from the choices that Joe is talking about, as well as just investments. We're putting more resources on it, and we're working to bolster the engine team to solve these issues to keep much of the content that players love in the game. Now, these issues are real, guys. The problems that Bungie is required to solve here. To even balance the entire light and darkness saga in the game at once, this is a hell of a task. I imagine the Bungie engineers are working on servers and the game engine constantly and doing their best with what they've got. But at the same point, we do need to ask ourselves, how long is it possible to patch holes on what seems to be a sinking ship? How long is it worth upgrading an engine when the necessary solution may be to start from the ground up? It's been my opinion for a long time that Destiny 3 would not happen until the far future. But given the current state of the game, with the ever-increasing stability issues, whether we want it or not, guys, post-Light and Darkness saga, Bungie may actually be forced to make a Destiny 3. Granted, I sincerely hope that this isn't the case. I think Destiny 2 is worth whatever investment necessary to bring it up to date. But this past year has been rough. We have had a lot of issues, and the trend doesn't seem to be getting any better, which makes me very concerned about Lightfall and the year ahead. Now, I want to leave you with a story that I believe perfectly encapsulates the state of Destiny 2 right now. Earlier this month, our editor Luke actually responded to the machine stops from an article that Paul Tassi actually wrote on the deteriorating state of Destiny 2, which is pretty much similar to this video. Now, for those of you that don't know, this is actually a title of a sci-fi short story by E.M. Forster, originally published in 1909. But in this dystopian future, the Earth's surface is no longer habitable, and humans now live inside the bowels of a giant machine. It isn't so bad because they each have an individual pod where they live and their every need is met, similar to the Matrix, but less creepy. They can even communicate wirelessly through round handheld plates that project their faces across vast distances, frighteningly similar to the modern day communication system we have today. And remember, guys, this was actually written in the early 1900s. It's crazy. Now, many humans have put all their faith in this almighty machine. Some even worship it as a god. But over time, small issues began to arise. Ambient music lost melody, the water began to stink, the air became thin, and the people initially complained, but began to accept these new encumbrances and quickly forgot how things used to be. Funnily enough, the machine even had a mending apparatus to fix these type of issues, but that too also was broken. Spoiler alert, a short time later, the machine and its systems collapsed, and everyone who relied upon its omnipotence died. I think you may be starting to see where I'm going with this. We are currently seeing small issues slowly building up inside the bowels of Destiny 2, from an increase in bugs to networking issues, player data corruption, and as of today, it's so bad we can't even play the game right now and they're having to do a rollback. I'm worried that if Bungie doesn't prioritize fixing these issues, things will continue to deteriorate and eventually Destiny will have that collapse moment. It's a dreary outlook, but it's a future I hope we can avoid. This also leads to the conversation that Bungie had with us years ago about sunsetting and why it was required. I'm scratching my head wondering if those director cuts from Luke Smith was actually spot on. He talked about the issues with the amount of content we have in the game and why sunsetting will be a necessity, but man, was that a double-edged sword. That right there made a lot of players leave the game. I personally don't like seeing content cut from the game, and I hope that's not the only other solution here. With that being said, Bungie received a substantial investment from Sony last year, and I really do hope that a portion of those funds are going directly into boosting the health of Destiny 2. Well, fellas and ladies, thank you all for coming and watching, and as always,
slap that like button like your mama told you right.